Man, fuck you, Oda. Oh, One Piece chapter 1133. God damn, man. Shit. This guy's got. I'm fucking crying. I'm fucking crying, man. Damn, this is like, oh, damn. Damn. I might have, I'm gonna keep it like this because damn, this motherfucker got me crying. God damn, Oda. God damn. Like, this is one of the few times I miss being on camera. Because, like, OG subs know, like, I used to do these blind reactions. Like, I would cut the camera on immediately after reading the chapter. Now I just cut the microphone on. And I just give you my thoughts, like, right away. This motherfucker got me crying. I'm legit crying. Like, I knew it was going to be one of them chapters when this shit opened up with the flashback. And you see everything that Nico Robin went through as a child. Like, you already knew it. But this, shit. This hit harder. Because I have a nephew that is, Nico Robin was 6 or 7 when this happened. I have a nephew that is that same age. And it hits because that nephew is my sister's kid. And my sister reminds me of Nico Robin. And when I was reading this, I projected it a little bit. And also, like, with Nico Robin's character, just knowing everything that she's went through, to have to go back through that and see new scenes from it. Like, seeing, like, how she's sitting there with the dog and she's having to rummage through trash to find something to eat. And this stray dog brings a half-eaten fish to her. And it's like, you know, she had to eat the scraps off of that. And just seeing how she had to survive like that gutted me. Oh, that gutted me. Like, this in the Kuma flashback, like, it gutted me. Like, it's one of the things, like, as you get older, it like, shit like this. Like, I've been reading One Piece for 10 years. Like, I started reading One Piece in 2015 when I was right out of college. Like, oh my God, man. This hits. And I know, like, for some of the other people that are fans of the series, like, I know, like, especially, like, with people that are parents now, because there are people that have been reading One Piece longer than me and they have children. I know this had to have fucked you up. Like, to see Nico Robin hiding behind corners, trying to keep herself from getting caught, everyone hunting her down, talking about how much of a menace she is, how much they want her to die, how much they say she's got the eyes of a killer. You see the propaganda being spread by the world government. You see Nico Robin trying to just hang in there, and she's recalling the words of her mother telling her that she's got to live. And you just see how she had the interaction with Saul. And you see how she's just trying to cling to any reason to stay around. And then you just subconsciously go back to what happened with Water 7 and with Annie's lobby and everything, and what happened with Rob Lucci. It just, my heart broke and re-broke multiple times throughout this chapter. And I was dumb enough to think that something happened to Saul, man. Because I'm like, oh man, they didn't open up with the flashback. Like, I know this motherfucker's cooked. I'm getting ready to just start screaming, fuck you, Oda, repeatedly, right? Like, I'm just, like, dreading it as I'm reading the chapters. And you're just seeing Nico Robin with all these feel-good moments. And I'm like, man, Oda, don't you do this to me. And right after the Straw Hats, they get off of the... right after they get off of, like, that emotional high. And you see as Gerd and as Goldberg are riding on the clouds, and they're in the process of landing on the ground, and you see, like, the rest of the New Giant Pirates saying, like, you know, that's our captain right there. And you get Gerd talking about how after they learn about Big Mom, you know, they're, like, completely shocked about what happened. As Hajrudin, it says that. Then Gerd says that she used to be friends with Big Mom, but what she did on Elbaf was unforgivable. And it just shows you how old Gerd is. And it's like, you kind of look at how she aged and you look at how Big Mom aged, and it's like, Jesus Christ. But what I like here is that, like, as the Straw Hats are getting together and they're starting to celebrate, Luffy, even though he's starving, he is riding with Gerd, and Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats are going around, and like Luffy's like, we're being carried to Saul, and it's very important, Robin, when you're the captain, you got to pay respect to everyone who's helped out your crew. And when Robin's like, where'd you ever learn that? And like Luffy's like, it's the honorable thing. What I like about that is like Luffy was basically like, that guy Saul helped you out even before you were a member of my crew. Therefore, we got to make this right. He helped you out, so we going to make sure we celebrate with him. And that's one of the things I fuck with Luffy for. Like, that's some real shit right there. I do appreciate that. And what I like here is that as they start getting to the location of Saul's library, and they start talking about how Saul's fallen and got up, like, that's something, and couldn't get up. I'm like, man, this motherfucker right here, I'm cussing Oda out. And I totally blanked for a second. Like, once Saul reveals that he's okay, I'm like, oh, shit. Like, with Nico Robin, she wasn't shook up because I'm like, that's the shit Saul and Robin, they had their whole fucking bond before. I'm like, Oda has moments where I just read the story and I get so fucking caught up in it that I forget past parts. And that's the mark of a good writer, where they just have you so invested in the current timeline and the current events that you overlook past stuff because you're just so invested in the characters and what they're going through right now. And like the way that he layered all of this, like, Oda got me. I'm not afraid to say that, like, that's why I'm blind reacting. Like, when I get caught up and I start switching to where I'm doing full-blown reviews where I'm no longer going to react, but I'm going to go through and like do proper breakdowns, etc. Still going to react in the terms of recap, but it'll be proper breakdowns where I can like fully sit down and think about everything, get my thoughts scripted. This is one of those times where for me, as soon as I realize what happened, I just start fucking smiling. And Oda's so good with the emotional shit, whereas Robin is approaching and Nami has to reel Luffy in and say, no, dumbass, you stay here. This is Luffy's moment. And she's got to literally pin this guy down. And Robin's saying, my heart's racing. And she's like, it's fine. You don't have to worry, Chopper. I'll go approach him. And when Saul tries to scare her, and you just see how Saul is looking at her and he sees the child version of Robin, and then he sees the grown-up version. It, again, like, as you get older and you just read shit, for me, it's like every time I see my nephew, like, I still see him as a baby. I still see him as that 2-3-year-old baby I used to hold. And he's a fucking kindergartner now. And so it's kind of the same thing here. I appreciate what Oda did with these small tidbits. And he's like, you're not a kid anymore. And he's like, I just don't know how to greet you. And he starts laughing. And Robin's like, you still have that silly laugh. And when Saul's like, you look just like your mother. And he says, you got your mother's eyes. And you can just tell things like that. They're really hitting Nico Robin. And he tries to change the subject and say, not even change the subject, but just, build on the conversation, because that's how real people talk. They don't, necessarily get right to the point the way that, you see with a lot of different, there are blunt people, but most people, they kind of talk around before they get to the point. And that's what's happened here, because he wants to talk about how she survived, and he wants to talk about how far she's come from what happened. And he bridges this whole thing by basically saying, like, you heard Vegapunk's message, right? And when Robin says, I didn't hear everything, he says, well, Vegapunk said that history is told by the winners. Those words, that's Ohara right there. And even though they were left to be buried by history because of what the world government did, their voices still got out. And it's because of that message. He was able to give voice to those messages. And when Robin says, like, hey, you know, you sacrifice a lot too. And she's looking at the scar and she's rubbing the scar. And when this guy starts talking about, you know, I just couldn't believe all the bad things I heard about you when I found out that you were still alive. And, you know, I just couldn't believe the stuff I was reading. It used to make me so angry. When Nico Robin says, and she closes her eyes before she says it, she says, you know, why don't we talk about how good it is I'm still alive? That fucking broke my heart. And I like what Oda did here because it just shows us that the things that we've gone through, all the bad, makes us appreciate the good, especially when we have loved ones that we can share those moments with. And to see Saul and Robin and how Saul's hugging her, Robin's hugging back, and she's got her head buried into his chest, and then she starts crying because she's thinking back to, why do I have to live? And she's calling out to her mother. She's calling out to Saul. And she says, I want to die. And then we get the modern day moment where she says, I miss you so much. And then Saul says, I miss you so much too. It fucking, like, I was already at the point where my eyes were watering. But when I saw that, Oda put me on a fucking emotional roller coaster. I open up the chapter and my eyes, I already feel like I'm getting ready to cry. And then he gets me like with the happy moments and then the dread. And then he ends with this shit and then he fucking broke me. I fucking cried at this point, man. Like, One Piece, it's not been that many manga that have been able to make me cry. I've talked about this before. I can count on one hand the number of manga, battle manga at that, and I guess adventure manga, because One Piece is more of an adventure manga, but I can count on one hand the number of times I've cried reading the manga. One Piece is responsible for at least two of them. Like, this motherfucker Oda, I'm gonna be sad when One Piece ends, man. Like, like I want to say it was Forever World that told me that, you know, when I started getting caught up, you know, he was like, you'll never replace that feeling of going through One Piece for the first time, because when you get caught up, it's never the same. And that's part of why I've like paused and let chapters build up and then go back into it. There are other reasons too, you know, budget reasons, like having to pay for thumbnails and etc. But it's just like, man, this, like, to see that and to see Luffy smiling as the rest of the Straw Hats are fucking bawling their eyes out. And they have those exaggerated crying faces. Like, you have to laugh. But like, when I first got through it, I was just going, fuck you, Oda, because I was fucking crying. And then as you go back through it the second time, like, and I'm going through it as part of the recap, I got the chapter up on the screen, make sure I don't miss anything I want to talk about. And you see the Straw Hats, like, for me, it just, man, Oda puts you on a fucking roller coaster. I'm a broken record at this point, but I can't stress that enough. Like, it takes a lot of skill to get that type of emotion out of somebody, man. Like, for me, I want to know, like, are there any moments in One Piece that made you cry? Am I just being a big softy here? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.